if you ever want to chuckle,
Yeah.
Google James Sutton naked,
Okay.
and you will be faced with a whole wall of photoshops of me in compromising positions. But after a few times of doing this, we were both like, we both have stubble rash, and we'd be like, this is fucking, I just can't keep doing it.
Well, you're getting an insight now into the bedrooms of gay men. The stubble rash is a real thing. You are a straight actor. You've been playing a gay role for coming up to, what, 15 years?
I was so lucky to get this job as a straight man. It wouldn't happen now. I don't think it would happen.
So you haven't hooked up with guys off camera?
That's for me to know. That's not a. You're not getting a scoop out of me on a podcast.
James, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Known to many listening to this podcast as John Paul, and you've been playing John Paul in Hollyoaks now since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So most of your adult life, you've been portraying John Paul in Hollyoaks. That's crazy.
It's crazier to me.
Mm.
It makes me feel quite old,
Yeah.
for a start. But I'm also immensely proud. Like I've left Hollyoaks twice and gone back. I left the first time and went to Emmerdale for a couple of years, which was amazing. Just a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Great team up in Leeds, wonderful set, great scripts. And then I left again, did loads of theatre, took a play to New York, did a couple of UK tours, did a one-man show. But I keep coming back to Hollyoaks and John Paul McQueen because it's such a rich character, and he's got such a rich history that there's so much to draw from, and the writers really enjoy writing for me as well. Like I really get the sense that when they put me into something, because they like me to do a lot of the heavy lifting, which is totally fine. You know, they love seeing me cry. John Paul has cried a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. Like I like that responsibility. I like the sort of, not the pressure that they put on me per se, but I know that I've got a responsibility, I think, in portraying that character, and it's one that I really love, and I think that's why I've kept coming back to it. That, and it's just a really fun place to work.
Yeah. Do people in the US know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of US people listen to this. So I was curious. I was like, I wonder if I'm going to have to really sell him in on the intro. I'm like, no, he's a big deal in the game.
He's a superstar over here. He can't walk the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we used to be on BBC America.
Okay.
And yeah, we Hollyoaks has certainly got an audience in America. It's not as big over here it's not as big as it is over here. Back in the day, when Hollyoaks was sort of at its sort of peak, so maybe sort of 10 years ago, when
I go what is it? I go by Toyota. I remember that.
Yeah, that's it.
Help me, what was it? I go.
I like how my whole career on Hollyoaks, and all you can remember is the little advert in the middle.
No,
that it's left such an impression on you.
Trust me, we're going to get into the impression it's left on me.
Oh, bless you. I hope it's a positive one.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the reason that I wanted to talk to you. I actually auditioned for Hollyoaks.
Get out.
Yeah. I went to the studios in Liverpool, is it?
Yeah.
Newcastle or something?
Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah, I went to the high school where they film it, and I auditioned for it when I did acting. I did the Manchester School of Acting. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, I know MSA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, didn't get past the first round, but it was fun to be there.
Do you remember who you were auditioning for?
I don't think
because you're a handsome gentleman, which would lead me to believe that you were either going to play a villain, or one of John Paul's lovers.
Really? Oh, yeah. It would have been, I mean, it was 15 years ago now.
Oh, that was it. That was my character's peak.
So maybe I could have been playing against you.
There's every chance that would have happened. There's a lot of you're not the first actor that I've met, or former actor that I've met, that said that to me. Like, really? I auditioned to play one of your boyfriends, and I'm like, yeah, fucking, he's such a slag, my character.
How many boyfriends have you had now?
So many.
Yeah, how many men have you been partnered up with on the show?
Oh my God. I mean, it's well into double figures.
It's really interesting because this podcast primarily is listened to by gay men. And I sit with gay men on here, and only recently have I invited straight men to come and sit with me. So you're the second straight guy now I've had here.
Can't believe you've had someone before me.
But he was a porn star.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is a porn star.
He is a porn star.
And his whole episode is about gay for pay. So yours is totally different in the sense that he's...
Well, it's not really.
Well, yeah, you are getting paid, I guess.
I mean, I am gay for pay.
You
I mean,
are.
If you wanna really, break it down.
I could loop you in the same.
Yeah, we could do a double episode.
Yeah,
of straight guys that get paid to be gay.
yeah. I think that if you Googled him, it would be slightly different to you, though.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Although the Google search history on you, I'm sure, is vast. But that's a whole different story.
If you ever want to chuckle,
Yeah.
Google James Sutton naked,
Okay.
and you will be faced with a whole wall of photoshops of me in compromising positions. Well, my face on the body of many naked men.
Is it flattering?
There's a couple that I'm like, yeah, that's decent. That's it. It's not a bad length on the lad.
Yeah.
And then there's some that you're just like, oh, for the love of God.
I mean, I'm sure there's so many virtual scenes of you and Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be loads of that, because that is a relationship seared into a lot of gay people's memories for good reason. I believe, and I know this to be true, that John Paul is a really important character in terms of LGBT plus representation on British TV. Not only British TV, but in terms of global TV, because Britain and the US have led the representation in that sense. I'm curious to know, before you got the role, or even before the writers told you that your character was going to come out, what was your relationship with LGBT people?
I grew up in the theatre.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of gay people in theatre.
Yeah, that's why I left.
far too many, if you ask me. No, I grew up in the theatre. I started doing theatre when I was 8 years old, and got really friendly really quickly with people who worked there, people who were, directors, working in the costume department, people who I'm still friends with today, who sort of took me under their wing a little bit. So I was always kind of part of the world in a sort of roundabout way. I was exposed to it at quite a young age.
Yeah.
And for the most part, incredibly supportive and wonderful. So when I joined Hollyoaks, I think it's a long time ago, and I've slept since then, but I'm pretty sure there was whisperings around the time I got cast that the character would be gay, but I don't think I actually had it confirmed for about 6 months. And then I remember the boss at the time, Brian Kirkwood, wonderful creative mind. He writes for EastEnders now, actually. John Paul's storyline was him. That was his story. That was what he went through when he was at school in Brighton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a straight guy, quote unquote. Fell in love with his best friend, had to go through all of the kind of turmoil and coming out and everything that went along with that. And I think his involvement in it, he was so involved. I mean, his fingerprints were all over it. And I think that's part of the reason that it resonated so well, was that it was based in a really authentic world. It wasn't, a bunch of straight people going, we need to get some viewers. We need to, it wasn't sensationalized.
Yeah.
It was very, very real. It was very raw. And I think that's why it, it had the impact that it did. And we had so many meetings and so many conversations about various, we call them plot points. So a soap doesn't have a beginning and an end. It just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Along the way, when you're telling a story, there are certain beats that you have to hit. These are the important moments in a storyline, right? To get you from A to wherever you're going. And those moments were, for example, John Paul and Craig's first kiss, for example. The first time they slept together, John Paul coming out to his family, John Paul coming out to the village, John Paul being, beaten up and assaulted for being gay. These were the really integral moments that myself and the team at Hollyoaks took incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
As I said, the work that goes on behind the scenes to facilitate the 26 minutes of drama that everybody watched at 6:30 on Channel 4 that had such a profound impact.
Yeah.
was researched, and nothing was left to chance. It was all done very, very specifically.
And what age were you when you got the role?
I was a little bit older. I played a schoolboy, but I was actually 20. I think I was 23.
And John Paul when introduced, was how old?
Either 15 or 16.
Oh, so you were proper Twinkie looking when you got the role.
Oh yeah, have you not seen
Yeah,
it?
of course I've fucking seen it.
I had like a little tie on. I had this sort of like sleeveless jumper that John Paul used to wear. That was like his look. I didn't want to wear like a normal school blazer or a jumper. I was like, he needs to look a little bit out of place. He needs to feel like he doesn't belong when we see him. So we made a decision on the costume that he'd wear this sort of little sleeveless jumper, and I had my hair all spiky and straightened in the. Oh my god! Honestly, I look back at the photos and I'm like, what do I look like?
No, you look great. You do look great.
Bless you.
Do other people? I say other people because I suppose until I reached out to you, maybe I've been under the misconception that I thought you were gay in real life.
I'm flattered.
Do people think you are?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like not like Kieran, he is gay in real life and plays gay on screen. Right. Whereas, I just wrongly thought that you were gay in real life.
I take that as a
because you are John Paul in Hollyoaks.
Massive compliment.
It's like, devastating.
I think yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. No, I as I say, I take that as a massive compliment. To be so synonymous with a part that people kind of don't know where the lines are.
Yeah,
I think is a really great space to occupy, because it means that I've done a good job, and I've really invested a lot of myself into that, and taken it really seriously.
Can I ask you, when you first got the role wasn't, although you said there were murmurings that he might come out later down the line, but you got the role, he was a straight character, you had girlfriends on the show, and then the writers behind the scenes were building this narrative. So when they told you and they sat you down and said, James, your character's going to come out, you're going to have a relationship with a guy, and there's going to be a kissing scene, and you're straight off camera, what were your initial thoughts to being told that?
I was so excited. Because I knew, because I've been acting since I was 8 years old, and I do take it really seriously. I'm really proud of my craft. And I went to drama school, and I trained, and I studied, and I want the opportunity to play different characters, and to play characters that are not the same as myself. And I think sometimes there's a danger, especially in long-running, continuing dramas, that you could just play just a sort of version of yourself, basically. But when they said that, I knew that it was going to be something that was going to require a lot from me. And as anyone listening to this, and you'll know yourself, if you're lucky enough to enjoy what you do for a living, if you're lucky enough to enjoy your work, you want to be challenged and you want to be pushed. You don't want this shit shouldn't be easy, or what's the point? So I was really excited about it, and also having the conversation with Brian Kirkwood and knowing how much it meant to him and how much he was invested in it. And he's responsible. You might not know this, but Brian is responsible for kind of all of Hollyoaks' biggest successes. He was the figurehead. He was the executive producer of all of those years when Hollyoaks was absolutely essential viewing.
The Omnibus was the best day.
Right?
Loved it.
Who didn't watch the Omnibus on a Sunday? Even I'd watch the Omnibus, and I fucking knew what happened.
Followed by Shipwrecked.
Yeah. T4.
Yeah, of course.
With Steve Jones.
Yeah. Oh, what a hunk.
What a hunk.
Great day for the gays, that was.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. So, what was I saying?
You were really excited.
Yeah, just genuinely excited to kind of get going with it. I really wasn't nervous. Playing a gay character, playing any character. Let's not separate it into gay and straight. Let's playing any character, you have a responsibility, especially when you know that it means something to people, and you are holding up a mirror to a lot of young men that were watching that. Young men that were watching the show with their grandparents at 6:30, and they're seeing a gay kiss for the first time, and for the first time ever, they're looking at the television and they're thinking, "Fuck me, that's me. I'm that person." That's such a huge responsibility to not just me, but to the writers, to the producers, to everybody involved, that we get that right. But it's also really, really exciting, and it's really fun. Let's not forget that what I do for a living, yes, it's really important. Yes, as you said at the top of the show, it made a huge impact in the LGBTQ plus community in here and actually all over the world. But it's also a bit silly. You know, you have to remember that it's playful, it's pretend.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saving. I'm not a brain surgeon. You know, and I think as long as you keep that sense of fun and playfulness and imagination, whilst also bearing in mind that you do have a responsibility, that's a really lovely place to sit.
Yes, it is silly, but I think that actually, if you understood the gravity of what it is like for somebody that doesn't understand their sexuality and has never seen two guys kiss on TV, and how profound that is, because you really were a gay awakening for me. You know, I was 16 when you were kissing Craig on TV, and that's a really pivotal age because all my friends were hooking up with women and I wasn't hooking up with anyone. But that scene when you kissed each other at the prom is seared into my brain, and I'm 34.
Wow.
It's still today such an important scene for me, just as Queer as Folk will be to so many other people.
Of course.
Yeah, like these things that
makes me so proud, by the way. That makes me so proud.
Yeah.
That at my listen, I'm not downplaying anything by saying it's silly. I'm saying that what I do as an actor is, any actor will tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, but to know that, to hear that from you, and it's not just you.
No, it's not just me. Definitely.
I still get letters now.
Yeah.
From men of similar kind of age to you, mid-30s, 40-ish, saying I don't know where I'd be genuinely if I hadn't seen that and hadn't seen myself in that character and that storyline.
Because also another layer to this is that the internet did not exist. So I wasn't accessing pornography. I wasn't accessing Attitude magazine. The only way that I could see two guys kissing each other was either seeing it in real life, which barely ever happened, and then get all cringely going to a magazine store and buying Attitude, which I didn't have the balls to do. So the only access to seeing these relationships was on TV. So do you know that the amount of guys that would have been watching it terrified in their bedrooms on repeat that their parents were going to walk in? That was me. I would watch it at 9 p.m. on a shit TV and be like, this is my insight into two men being with each other.
Cool, isn't it?
It's emotional to think back to, because that isn't the case anymore.
No, I don't take it for granted. I don't underestimate the impact and the joy and the comfort that I get as a straight man, but more so as a performer, to know that what we did then had such an impact is the most beautiful thing. Not many actors get that,
Yeah.
Not many actors get that. There's only a few on soaps who've had that kind of storyline and those kind of scenes. And also, don't forget, we were on at 6:30 in the evening. That's early.
Yeah, that was early.
And we knew our demographic was 13 to 30. We knew that there were going to be children ultimately watching that. That's so brave of Channel 4 and Line Pictures and Hollyoaks to put that out when they did. And as you rightly say, nowadays you don't bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
But back then, so important.
If I was to push you though and say, if there were any hesitations or anything you were nervous about, or maybe you were talking to your family, or maybe you were talking to your friends who may be straight lads, and you're like, look, my character's going to come out on TV. If there was anything which was clouding your mind or making you feel nervous, what would you say was that?
The only nerves that I had was that I knew it needed to be right, and I knew it needed to look realistic. And that's a lot of pressure on a relatively new actor. I'd not done much TV before, and I was very aware that, I was very aware that as a straight actor, I think I'd maybe kissed a male friend before, drunkenly or whatever, But I was very aware that if I looked like I wasn't into it, if I looked like I was backing off and I was hesitating and James the actor was anxious and nervous, that would come across on screen. And I knew I needed John Paul to look nervous, as he should. It was his first kiss with a guy. But my biggest fear was that it would look fake and people would see straight through it. I didn't have a hesitation about kissing a guy it's my fucking job. It's literally my job. You know, I am a vessel for whatever storyline or you know, line of dialogue or kiss or whatever it is. That's my job. I don't have a, you know, whatever James's feelings are, you know, if I was homophobic, whatever, that's irrelevant in that moment, right? But my fear was that it would look shit and people would see through it. I remember Guy Burnett, who played Craig.
Is he straight?
Yes, yeah. I remember us talking about the kiss, and neither of us had done an on-screen kiss before with a man or a woman. And I remember going, right, so how, like, am I going right and you're going left, and what's happening, and how long do we, and where are your hands, and is this tongs, how do we, and trying to kind of get this kiss, trying to break this kiss down into sort of micro kind of moments, and then just giving up and going, let's just have a fucking snog, and, you know, they can deal with it in the edit.
But I really have to commend you for accepting the role and taking it in your stride at the time, because in 2007 that was a very different landscape in terms of what was on TV.
Yeah.
And as a straight guy, to just throw yourself into it and not really overthink it and not care what the reaction might be outside of the camera, I just think that's really fucking cool.
Thanks, man.
And yeah, I mean, we'll get into sort of straight guys playing gay people because it's such a complex thing, and I'm sure that you've reflected and people have said things to you since. Do you still chat to Guy?
Very occasionally. Our paths will cross on social media or, you know, an event or something. He actually left the country. He moved over to LA, did some movies and stuff, and is doing really well the last time I spoke to him. Yeah, lovely kid. Lovely lad. Yeah,
because I guess that you got quite close from doing that, right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, yeah.
We literally were in each other's mouths.
What I think resonated so much with me personally, I can't talk for everyone listening to this, but I'm sure it did also, is I had a very similar experience where I've fallen in love with a straight boy. I've kissed somebody in secret when we were both in the closet and had those nerves and that sort of wrestling with sexuality. And you do understand that is such a shared experience of people from that era. And that's what I think was made it so powerful is, I mean, you must have heard that so much, is that, oh, I fall in love with my straight mate, and I used to kiss boys and had a girlfriend on the side. And I think what was so great to see is that two schoolboys essentially were kissing at prom. And what I know is a lot of gay people will feel like they didn't get that. And it's something that there's a gap in our life. And I have a lot of sadness to that. I never got that young high school love that everyone else had.
Yeah, we're super proud of it. I always feel, I don't know, I always feel like kind of arrogant, sort of, you know, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but equally I do know how important it was. I had no idea. You can't ever know. You can't ever, you if you went into it, if I went into the job and the storyline and the character knowing what I know now, it wouldn't have had the same.
You would have been so in your head, surely.
Oh, I'd have been so in my own head, and it wouldn't have felt as kind of visceral, and I probably wouldn't have been able to have been as vulnerable as I was on screen, because I was really working hard to find that vulnerability with John Paul.
Yeah. Have you had, I don't know how graphic Hollyoaks gets, but have you had sex scenes? No, they don't do that. I don't mean full-on sex scenes, but I mean insinuating that you're in bed with another guy and that sort of thing.
So how we get around that, right? Is I've worked with my best mate is an actor called Greg Finnegan, and he played a gay character on Hollyoaks, and our characters were together for a while. He's straight as well, married. So that wasn't weird at all. Just, you know, you and your best mate. Just kissing all day.
What's his character called?
James. He's left the show now. Okay. James Nightingale, wonderful performer. We came up with this sort of way around it, because a lot of the scenes would end with, and then they snog and they, you know, start to rip each other's clothes off. But after a few times of doing this, we were both like, we both have stubble rash, and we'd be like, this is fucking, I just can't keep doing it. So we came up with this thing where like we'd start snogging and then we'd fall out of frame.
Okay.
That was our way around it. We'd have a big snog and then we'd just leave the frame and leave it up to the audience's imagination, which seemed to work quite well. Yeah. I mean, there are instances where there's clothes being ripped off and stuff, which I'm more than happy to get involved with. I don't mind getting down and dirty, but when you've been doing it all afternoon and it's your mate, you're like, can we just fall out of frame, please?
Well, you're getting an insight now into the bedrooms of gay men. The stubble rash is a real thing. I mean, so many of us are full on beard.
Jesus Christ! Can you all just shave it? Or like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but have you kissed a guy with this on screen more than this? Full on
God,
beard?
yeah.
Oh, you have, yeah.
See, that's okay. What you've got is fine.
It's softer.
That's soft. I can see you've used some oil on that, haven't you?
No, just the moisturiser. Probably just rubbed it in.
Okay. It looks very supple. That's not a danger beard.
Okay.
A danger beard is like 3 or 4 days growth when it's just really rough. I'd get home and my whole face would be like red raw. Just be like, oh.
Well, your character has had some has gone through a lot and touched on a lot of important topics. So just to run through a few. So obviously there's the kind of the kiss with Craig, that huge storyline which really made an impact. But also you've had storylines on male rape, and recently, I don't know how recent, I haven't seen Hollyoaks in a while, forgive me, but the gay conversion storyline, is that concluded now? Was that last year?
Yeah.
Right. And then, so I kind of got in a rabbit hole about looking about gay conversion in general, because I think that it's kind of buried in the press a bit, and in terms of the law is a bit vague. And I was kind of shocked at what I was finding. And some of these groups, I mean, there's a group called X Out. It's led by this guy in Northern Ireland, and it's about people that used to be LGBT and now they're not, and they're really trying to promote this idea that you can change your ways and all this sort of stuff.
You can pray away the gay.
Yeah. So you must have done a lot of research on it as well, and it's kind of shocking what's going on, isn't it?
It's terrifying. It's abuse, is what it is. It's abuse, and a lot of these groups, they hide behind religion. For a start, they make it seem like it's that whole kind of good versus evil. If you want to go to heaven, if you want to go to hell, and they prey upon people who are struggling, and a lot of that struggle and a lot of that anguish and self-hatred comes from not accepting one's own sexuality and not knowing where one fits in the world. I've spoken to people who've been through conversion therapy. I had someone on my podcast, a radio broadcaster from Liverpool, and he went through conversion therapy in the, I'm going to say 70s, might be 60s, possibly late 60s. And he was given injections. He was tied to a bed. He was, covered in his own feces and vomit by the end of it. Locked away. It was in a mental asylum. That's the extreme version. It's much more, and sanitized is the wrong word. It still goes on. It's not illegal. The previous government didn't ban it. This government haven't banned it. As you rightly say, it's kind of swept under the carpet. People don't talk about it, but it still goes on. There are still groups. When we did the conversion therapy storyline, I met with people who'd been in these groups, and they know what it's like. And it's abuse. It's horrendous, and it leads to a lot. In a lot of cases, it leads to suicide.
What is the government's rationale for not just putting an outright ban?
You'd have to ask them.
Because I don't understand. What is it? A freedom of speech thing? Is it a religious?
I think it might. Maybe it's quite hard to pin down. Because and also there's a religious aspect to it. So you are potentially going up against religious groups as well. And also people don't want to talk about it as well, is the other thing. It's only when people have kind of got out of it and come through it and have made peace with it. And a lot of these poor guys have had to go through a lot of therapy. I'm sure you can imagine, to deal with this and to make peace with it, because it's horrendous.
Yeah,
it is horrendous.
Yeah.
To be to be not only told that the way you feel and who you might fall in love with and who you might have sexual feelings for is abhorrent and wrong, but then also to be told that you can get rid of that, and that intrinsic part of who you are and your character is curable. I don't know what that does to a person. I can't imagine what that does to somebody.
Yeah, and it's disgusting if it's based on a religious sort of, if they're justifying it via religion, which is all encompassing love. It's absolutely obscene, isn't it?
It's there's so many contradictions. People, not to get on a kind of anti-religion bandwagon, because there's beautiful parts of religion. There are wonderful churches out there who do wonderful work, but there are also people who have very, very bad intentions.
Yeah.
And hide behind religion.
But some of these storylines that we just touched on, you've had to do more research and have to build an understanding that I believe is probably a lot more than a lot of LGBT people themselves. You probably know more about, definitely know more about conversion therapy. You'll know more about male rape.
I do.
Yeah, then I and a lot of people listening to this will know. So as a straight guy, that's given you such a education, hasn't it, into a world that otherwise, if you weren't playing John Paul, you wouldn't have really tapped into.
I'm incredibly lucky to have been given these opportunities to learn these things and speak to these people. Because that's ultimately, I think, what life is about. It's about experiencing and learning and being challenged and getting involved in things that you perhaps ordinarily wouldn't. I'm very lucky that that's a kind of byproduct of my job. I mean, and yes, a lot of the storylines that I've done and a lot of the research that I've done and the people that I've spoken to has been really, really hard. The male rape stuff especially, it's brutal. I mean, it's brutal. And that wasn't a gay straight thing. Male rape's nothing to do with sexuality. Male rape's about power. It's about that's fundamentally what it's about. I've spoken a lot of straight men who've been assaulted and raped, and their testimonies and their stories. It's heavy stuff. I'm actually an ambassador for a charity called We Are Survivors, which is it's a charity up in Manchester for victims of male sexual violence and rape. And if anyone is listening to this and knows that they've been through something and they haven't dealt with it, they haven't found any help, I would urge them to give We Are Survivors a call, because they are the most incredible people that you could ever want to meet.
That is an amazing element to your job.
In fact, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And again, it's another storyline that I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
Really lent into that vulnerable side of John Paul.
Yeah. If we talk more about public reaction and responses, so I've seen a few interviews that you've done, and you've said that, and you've said here today that you've received letters still to this day, comments about particularly your relationship with Craig on TV, I imagine. So can you just tell us some of the most memorable and notable comments or reach outs that you've had, particularly at the time? What do you remember people were saying to you, and what were gay people contacting you with?
I wasn't receiving so much fan mail at the time. It's all been retrospective, if I'm being honest.
Okay,
the majority. I mean, I do nightclub PAs and stuff back then. I do personal appearances at gay clubs.
At GAY and...
Oh my god, I didn't do GAY. I think they were a little bit too big for us. No, but we partied at Heaven. Fuck me, we partied at Heaven.
Oh my god, you must have got hit on so much.
Oh mate, honestly, it was like throwing meat to the wolves.
Yeah,
it tore me to shreds. But no, I used to do little public appearances at gay bars and gay clubs around the country and stuff, and the reception was just so beautiful. Yeah. It was just so lovely.
Yeah.
I've always, as I said to you at the top of the show, I've always felt very safe and very comfortable around LGBTQ plus people, and that side of it just solidified that. But the majority of the letters and the direct contact that I've had has all been retrospective. People saying, you know, I've now been married for, you know, 15 years, you know, whatever. We've adopted 2 beautiful children, and I can literally take that all the way back to watching John Paul and Craig.
Yeah.
That was what lit the touch paper to get me to where I am now in this beautiful, you know, authentic world that I occupy. And you know, I can't underestimate how amazing that is.
How did playing for all of these years John Paul impact your own sexuality? I don't know. Has it made you think differently? I'm not trying to say, oh, now you sleep with blokes.
How many dicks you sucked?
I just mean, how has it maybe made you just see sexuality and made you think it's you far more relaxed now, or has it not altered it?
No, I honestly, it genuinely, if it has altered it, it's only altered it in a really positive way. Not that it was, you know, negative to begin with.
So you haven't hooked up with guys off camera?
That's for me to know. That's not a. You're not getting a scoop out of me on a podcast.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Not at the moment, no.
Right. Okay.
I did have.
You did have.
I did have. Yeah. I'm newly single.
And how?
I'm definitely not ready to mingle.
Okay. How was in the time of playing John Paul? How has it, if it has, affected relationships off camera in terms of? I don't know. Have some women found it weird that you play a gay character?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. Only not in a sort of
not in a homophobic way.
No, not in a homophobic way. Just, you know, like Hollyoaks would come on and I'd be sat with my girlfriend or whatever, and it would be, you know, John Paul, you know, falling out of frame, snogging with someone. Yeah. They'd be like, "This is just weird."
Yeah.
Be like, "Yeah, it's weird for me too." Like, you know, I don't watch myself. As a rule, I don't really watch myself. So it's always interesting to get, you know, reactions from.
Surely a girlfriend
ones
would rather that than you necking off with a girl on camera.
They've all said that.
Yeah,
they've all said that. They don't feel threatened. It's
totally.
just, and a couple of them have been incredibly aroused. Oh, women love watching men kiss.
Really? They don't say that, I don't think.
You've not asked them.
Really? Okay, I'll need to check in on
You've not asked them. They are bang into that.
So actually, would you say it's helped you with dating women? It's disarmed you almost.
They've seen me as less of a threat.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know about that. It's just it's a talking point. You know, it's an interesting part of what I do. It's a you know, it's another layer to my character, you know, who I am, and it's you know, it's given me an insight. You know, I will never understand what it's like to be a gay man. I will never understand what it's like to feel that level of fear and worry and anxiety and stress and all the other emotions that people can feel when they're trying to figure out their sexuality, and as you said yourself, you know, falling in love or fancying a guy in your class who might be straight or whatever. I'll never know what that experience is like on a kind of visceral level, but I've got an idea.
But you're like a supremo ally, aren't you?
Yeah. I'll take that all day.
You're like definitely in there.
Yeah.
When you're around, so you're a big football fan, right? You support Liverpool.
I am.
Yes. My mum supports Liverpool.
She's a good girl.
She is a good girl. So you in football, as an example, as a straight guy in a predominantly straight space, when you go to see a football game or whatever, let's imagine that a lot of straight men don't know that you're John Paul and Hollyoaks and that had this infamous gay love affair, and you played this iconic gay character for so many years. So you're just another bloke in the crowd. Because you're so much of an uber ally, as I just said, have you ever had times when you've had to defend your support towards LGBT people by hearing things or seeing things, or have you ever had to step in and defend something happening?
Not at the football.
Okay, so not football, but other straight environments.
Yeah. God, yeah. God, yeah. I think we've all heard stuff. I don't think that. I mean, obviously, of course, it's had the character that I play and the work that I've done obviously has an impact on my views and you know, my allyship. But we've all got a responsibility, surely. If we hear someone in a bar or on the street use a slur or say or tell a joke or whatever it is, we've all got a responsibility, surely. If we're a good person and we've got good morals, we've all got a responsibility to call that out and say it's unacceptable. But I've never heard that at the football, ever.
Yeah, but you say that, I think anyone would step in, but I really don't think they would. I think it does take a specific type of person. And my biggest thing, I suppose, as someone that is an ally, would be to have the courage to step up if they hear things in public, because actually a lot of LGBT plus people would be fucking terrified to say something, because then the attention's drawn on them.
Yeah.
So actually, if I was to say that allies' biggest role amongst society to prove their allyship is to do what I've just described, which is to step in a group of straight lads and go, you can't say that word.
Don't reduce my sister's experience down to a slur. Don't use her sexuality as a stick to beat her with, or to beat anybody with. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's our responsibility. But I do understand equally why it's difficult, especially for gay people to say those things, to stand up and go, don't say that. That I get why you wouldn't want the spotlight to be on you. But I guess for me, spotlight's kind of already been on me. So
have you ever had any homophobia towards you, where people just saw you playing gay on screen and thought, oh, fucking hell?
Probably.
But not any memories of...
No, because it wouldn't affect me it wouldn't affect me on the same level, because I'm not...
But even walking down, I don't know, a city street, and someone's like, oh, there's that gay boy on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
people, yeah, but only as much as they would identify me as the gay boy off Hollyoaks.
Exactly.
But they wouldn't be calling me in a sort of derogatory way necessarily. A lot of this stuff comes down to education as well. A lot of these, I think, and again, I'm saying this as a straight guy. I like to think that the younger generations are a bit more switched on and a bit more clued in, and they're growing up in a much more tolerant society. And again, a lot of that is to do with the work that's on TV and in the media and with the internet and stuff. It's easy to dismiss homophobia and archaic views and go, well, no, that's clearly wrong. Whereas, as you said before, back in the day when there wasn't the internet and there wasn't this representation on TV, what you're supposed to believe, your uncle and your uncle and your dad are telling you, these bloody puffs or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have an antidote for that, whereas now we do. So I'd like to think that things are better. So I throw the conversation back to you. How do you feel about straight people kind of invading spaces that were there for gay people?
Give me an example.
Well, for example, there's a quite famous sort of strip of gay clubs in Liverpool, G Bar, for example, wild nights there, that have always been pretty much, for the most part, LGBTQ plus. There's not really been straight, but there's been a real switch now. They're having to turn away groups of straight men, and because I think maybe the straight men think that that's where the straight women will go because they feel safe, or whatever it is. But they're certainly kind of invading that space somewhat. What do you feel about that?
I would say that I think it's great that they feel comfortable enough to be there and want to be there. And maybe their argument would be, surely this is what you want. You want cohesion amongst people. You don't want division anymore. So why can't we just all share the same club, and I could neck off with a girl and you can neck off with a guy? And this is that sort of ideal view of society where we're all just being each other. But I would say that I believe it's incredibly important for LGBTQ people to have their own spaces, because a lot of those people will feel more comfortable to exercise their gayness in public when they're not being seen by straight eyes. And also, there's just an element of fuck off. I don't know, I guess you've got the rest of the world to be straight. Like, this is our little heaven that we've created.
I think that's absolutely right. I think that feels right to me.
Yeah.
That on the one hand, great that you feel comfortable to come in here and be around us and be part of our world. Love that.
Yeah.
But please fuck off, because it's our world. It's a difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. For the last 10 minutes, I just want to focus on this notion of straight actors playing gay roles. You are a straight actor. You've been playing a gay role for coming up to 15 years? So you'll have more insight into this sort of opinion that only gay people should play gay people on screen. And I've sat with Ian Canning and we sat here together, and he said actually what's more important is getting gay people in straight roles than focusing on straight people in gay roles. So how's the tide shifted in your opinion and the opinions that have been put on you for being a straight person playing a gay person?
Okay, firstly, there is no right or wrong answer to this question. There's never going to be a definitive answer because it's subjective.
Yeah.
It depends on one's own lived experience. You have to take into consideration the history of gay culture, gay media, and representation as well, which has improved massively. I was so lucky to get this job as a straight man. It wouldn't happen now. I don't think it would happen, and I'm totally cool with that. From an authenticity point of view, I know I've given my best to this character in this role. I've done everything I can to portray John Paul as realistically and as grounded in truth as I could. But equally, and this is why I say there's no right or wrong answer, another gay person could have watched that storyline and that character and gone, well, that's bollocks. That's not what it was like for me at all. So you're never gonna appease everybody, which I think is why the conversation is so nuanced and you know, has so many layers to it. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think who did you say you had on before?
Ian Canning. He's, the producer of Heartstopper.
I think he's right. I think he's right in what he says, in that we need to get more gay actors in straight roles. But then you're getting into a really weird world of like, are you saying effeminate actors in what are you saying? Like, I know loads of I've got loads of gay friends, and you know, you wouldn't know they were gay. So are we saying that people have to go into auditions and there's a box that says what your sexuality is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how deep do we have to go with this?
Yeah.
It's a really complicated issue.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, LGBTQ plus people need representing in every walk of life. There've been huge, shifts, really, really, really positive. You see characters and actors in comedies, in dramas and theatre, film. It's we're moving in the right direction. And I think for me, it's more about the stories that we tell rather than who's telling them. I think is the important thing for me. But equally, if someone said to me, this gay part should only be played by a gay character, I'm not going to argue with that. That's cool. That's up to you. As I say, it's nuanced, it's difficult, it depends on the individual, it's complicated.
But because your character's been on TV for so long, at the start it would have been so much praise based on fucking finally we've got this character on TV, and then the conversation set in around only gay people playing gay people on TV. So then you must have got a new wave of attention on you. Did you get other people going, why are you playing a gay person? And you're like, I've been playing this person for 10 fucking years.
No one really said that. The character was definitely part of the conversation.
Yeah.
In as much as it's something to point to and go, well, there's a straight actor that's played a gay character for 15 years or whatever. So it obviously works. You've got to facilitate the story. You've got to bring authenticity to it. Obviously, if someone's got a lived experience, that authenticity is going to be deeper and perhaps realer. But then this is why it's complicated, because then you're saying that the straight actor can't do a good enough job or can't put himself in that mindset and find that vulnerability and that truth and that depth of performance, which is what I think I brought to the character. Do you see what I mean? So the kind of is no right or wrong answer, and that's why I go back to storytelling. I don't think it's necessarily about the actor. As a side note, I think it's great that trans actors are getting more parts. That's where I think the important conversation is right now, especially in light of everything that's been going on politically with our trans brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I think that's the really important conversation there, is that we get trans women playing female characters. We get trans men playing male characters. That's where I think the real important stuff lies for me. And I'm saying this as a straight man. I don't want to offend anyone. You know, I'm trying to be as delicate as I can. But I think for me, it's all about the stories that we tell. And I think if we're telling the right stories and we're shining light on the right issues and we're bringing these struggles and these celebrations as well, it can't all be that. You know, we have to tell LGBTQ plus stories that are full of joy and life and success and triumph. You know, that's has to be part of it as well. For me, it comes down to the stories rather than the performers.
Yeah.
But if someone disagrees with me, totally agree with you, you're valid. No argument here.
If this, say you'd never played John Paul, and it was written today and offered to you today, would you say yes to the job?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you would? The whole like cultural shift of this conversation we're having now wouldn't alter your acceptance of the job?
I've still got bills to pay. I've still got a mortgage to pay. I'm not a martyr. You know, I don't think it would be offered to me today.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
Yeah, but if you look, I've got some notes here, and if you look, Daniel Craig just played the lead role in the film Queer. He's a straight man. That is a bold move.
But this is the when you're looking at movies and you're looking at things with budgets like that, they have to have a name like that attached sometimes. So there's probably a conversation there around how did we get this film made, because we wanted this really important film to be green lit, and the only way to do that was maybe, and I don't know because I'm not in the room with them, maybe they needed to get someone of Daniel Craig's stature attached to it, and maybe there wasn't a gay guy that was available or whatever. I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that is a really good point.
I think because
that's an insider thing. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, this is, you know, and again that's why I bring it back to storytelling rather than representation necessarily.
Yeah,
I think it's the stories that are important, because as I've proven, who you kiss and who you fall in love with doesn't have to affect what you do on screen.
Yeah,
it's the package that matters. It's the storytelling, it's the depth, it's the truth, it's the authenticity, it's the realism.
Yeah,
and ultimately it's the impact that matters.
I think just to loop back around to what I said to you at the start, I commend you so much for saying yes to the role originally in 2007. You are a fucking icon in terms of gay representation on TV.
That's a word that gets thrown around. That's nothing to do with
I'm sorry, but Craig and John Paul are like a couple who, in terms of lots of gay men, will be a very staple moment for them on television.
I'm so proud. Thank you so much.